You know those mornings? After breakfast, just scrolling, catching up. Well, Kesser was doing just that, a bit of online digging.
Hmm.
And he stumbled across this information from DTU about pesticide residues in food.
Oh, right, the Danish Technical University. Yeah, that kind of research definitely makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Totally. Makes you think about what we're actually eating. And, it got him wondering about more natural ways to do things.
It's a really common concern, that link between food and health. And seeing formal research, well, it naturally pushes you towards looking for simpler, maybe more nature-based answers.
Funny thing is, that wasn't even their plan for the day. Kesser and Steen, they were all set to tackle some no-dig beetroots,
Oh.
but the weather had other
This
plans.
happens all the time with gardening.
Right, and that's when they actually noticed the willow bushes
Mm.
around their place starting
Yeah.
to blossom.
Okay.
And it clicked, reminded them of a chat they'd just had about propagating blueberry bushes, but without using, artificial plant hormones.
Ah, okay, I see the connection. So one thought leads to another.
Exactly. Those unexpected moments, right? They often spark the really interesting ideas. That blueberry chat probably planted a seed, excuse the pun,
Yeah.
about natural growth stuff. It's amazing how these random things connect.
It really is. Those little observations can send you down a whole new path.
And that brings Oma into the picture. Her perspective.
Right. Someone from a different generation.
Totally. Grew up relying on what was around them. She reminded Kesser and Steen about all the natural resources they just used. Because, that's what they had right outside the door.
There's such a deep wisdom in that, isn't there? That resourcefulness. We've maybe lost touch with some of that.
Yeah, it feels like it sometimes. It's such a contrast to, heading to the store for every little manufactured thing.
Yeah.
There's a real appeal to that simpler way.
Definitely. A connection to natural cycles, understanding what nature provides.
She even thought about hedges differently. For us, a hedge is maybe just a fence, a boundary marker. But for Oma, it was alive. A living border packed with potential solutions, with useful things.
That's a fantastic way to look at it. Not just a barrier, but a whole little ecosystem offering benefits. Really sets the stage for the willow.
Which, brings us to the willow itself. Salix. Kesser already knew there was some link. The name, salix and salicylic acid.
Right, the active compound.
Yeah, and he knew it was concentrated in the young branches, especially in spring. He remembered hearing about people making, a herbal tea from it for pain relief.
A very old traditional remedy.
And then, of course, how the pharmaceutical industry eventually synthesized it, added that little tweak. What was it? An acetyl group.
That's it, yeah. Acetylation. Basically a small chemical change.
To make it easier on the stomach, right. And that's how we got aspirin, acetyl salicylic acid.
Exactly. So it's not just willow helps pain, it's centuries of observation leading to a modern medicine. That path is incredible.
From folk remedy to pharmacology, it's amazing.
It really is. Shows the power of that traditional knowledge. They knew it worked long before they knew why.
But here's what really grabbed Kesser's attention. Oma pointed out willow wasn't just for pain.
Oh.
What else? Well, she said it's important for insects, for biodiversity, and apparently it could help people with arthritis and even foot warts.
Foot warts. Okay, that's a new one on me for willow.
Yeah. But the big one, Oma mentioned farmers used it, traditionally, as a natural rooting hormone.
Ah, now that makes a lot of sense, botanically speaking.
Yeah. Imagine, a winemaker needing loads of cuttings for a new vineyard, using this natural magic, as Steen called it.
That's a great application. This plant really does seem to have many talents.
It really does. Supporting insects, helping humans, helping other plants grow. It's quite the multitasker.
Highlights the complex chemistry within the plant, doesn't it?
Oh.
And how it interacts with the whole environment, nature's web of solutions.
Now look, we're sharing Kesser and Steen's journey here, and they did say, some details might get a bit lost in translation as they figure things out.
Sure, that's natural when you're exploring something new.
But their main goal, really, is just to spark some curiosity. Encourage people listening to maybe explore it themselves. Get friendly with Google, as they put it, or whatever works.
That's a great attitude, empowering people to investigate.
Steen had this great analogy, too, about, carefully looking at a screw, figuring out which way it turns by trying it, learning by doing.
Ah, the hands-on approach.
Yeah, he talked about learning to fix his bike the hard way at the junkyard with his dad. That kind of learning, it really sticks with you.
It absolutely does. Experiential learning. It's not just reading about it, it's doing it. Trial and error, sometimes.
So, okay. You're probably listening and thinking, This willow stuff sounds cool, but how do I actually use it?
Right, the practical bit.
Oh,
How do you make this willow water for, say, rooting hormone, or even the pain relief tea they mentioned?
yeah, exactly. How do we tap into this?
That's the logical next step, isn't it? After the history and the potential, people want to know the how-to.
Steen actually had a funny aside about the footwarts thing.
Oh,
Yeah, just saying how many people search online for cures. It was a bit off topic, he admitted, but it made him think about how often we're just glued to our screens, you know? Like people on the London Tube just staring down.
yeah, I know the scene.
And we miss what's right around us, the natural world, including maybe remedies right under our noses or, well, under our feet.
That's a really good point. It's easy to overlook simple, natural solutions that have been around forever when we're lost in the digital world. A reminder to look up and look around.
So the basic idea for making this willow tea or water seems pretty straightforward.
Okay.
You take fresh spring shoots, the young ones, light green or reddish, flexible.
Right, the new growth.
Cut them into small pieces, maybe 2 to 5 centimeters, something like that.
Increases the surface area. Good.
Put them in a bucket or jar, pour warm water over them, or they even mention rainwater. Let it sit.
Simple. Very accessible. No fancy equipment needed. Just extracting those compounds gently.
But how long do you let it sit? That's where Oma's wisdom popped up again.
Ah, yes.
Steen mentioned her word, tilpas.
Tilpas, meaning enough or just right.
Yeah, something like that. She apparently relates it to natural rhythms, like knowing when you've spent enough time visiting the horse in the field or gathering seaweed.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's an intuitive sense, isn't it? Not clock watching, but observing, feeling when it's ready. Comes from being connected.
It's a totally different way of thinking than, you know, strict lab measurements or timers.
Exactly. A knowledge rooted in experience and deep observation. Very different from purely analytical results, which might even be outdated depending on conditions.
Steen basically said the easiest thing might just be to ask Oma directly.
Huh. Probably true. That lived experience holds so much value, often stuff you won't find written down anywhere.
So bottom line, it sounds pretty sustainable and, as Steen put it, pretty magical to make your own rooting hormone pylvand, they call it in Danish.
Pylvand. Willow water. Yeah, there is something satisfying, almost magical about creating something so useful from nature's pantry. Sustainable, self-sufficient.
Okay, so let's dig into that how-to a bit more, especially the rooting hormone part, since that's what Kesser and Steen really explored. What's the science bit again? Why does it work?
Okay, the science. It's about plant biology. Willow, the salix species, naturally contains compounds that help other plants root. The main ones are plant hormones called auxins.
Auxins, okay.
Think of them as signals inside the plant telling cells, okay, time to grow roots. Willow is naturally rich in these, plus it has that salicylic acid we talked about.
Right, the pain relief stuff.
Yeah, but here it acts like a bodyguard for the cutting. It helps prevent fungus and bacteria from attacking while the cutting is vulnerable and trying to root.
Ah, okay, so it stimulates roots and protects them. Double whammy.
Exactly.
So if someone wants to try this, what kind of willow branches are best?
You want the young ones, the new growth from the current season. Look for shoots that are light green, maybe reddish brown, and flexible. Easy to bend.
Not the old thick woody bits.
No, avoid those. They have lower concentrations of the good stuff, the auxins and salicylic acid. Spring is usually the best time to find these ideal young shoots.
Makes sense. And once you've got them, you cut them up small, 2 to 5 centimeters.
Yep, that's the idea. More surface area means the water can pull out those compounds more effectively. Just like making tea, you chop the leaves or use a tea bag with small bits to get a better infusion.
Okay. Now, Kesser and Steen mentioned a couple of ways to actually extract the stuff. Cold water and warm water.
That's right. Two main methods. The cold method is gentler. You just soak the cut willow pieces in cold water for about, say, 24 to 48 hours.
Okay.
Then you strain out the willow bits. The water left over is your rooting hormone. Keep it in the fridge, sealed up. It should last about a week, maybe a bit more.
Simple enough. And the warm method?
That one's faster. You pour boiling water over the willow pieces, like making tea. Let it steep, but for longer, maybe 12 to 24 hours once it's cooled down a bit. Then strain it.
So faster, but maybe different?
Possibly. The heat speeds up extraction, but some think it might pull out other compounds too, or maybe degrade some slightly. Could make it stronger, or just different. Both methods seem to work.
Okay, so you've brewed your pylvand, your willow water. How do you actually use it on the cuttings you want to root?
Pretty easy. Take the cuttings you want to root, roses, hydrangeas, whatever. Dip the cut ends into your willow water.
Just dip. Or soak?
Let them soak for a few hours. Give them a good drink of those auxins and the protective salicylic acid before you plant them.
Got it.
Then plant them as you normally would. And for the first few days, use the leftover willow water to water them in. Gives them an extra boost right at the roots as they start to establish.
It's really cool how effective such a simple, natural thing can be. And it all treks back to that history, doesn't it? The pain relief connection.
Absolutely. It wasn't just a random fluke. People used willow bark for pain and fever for thousands of years. Egyptians, Greeks, Hippocrates wrote about it.
Wow. So they knew it worked, even without fancy chemistry labs.
Exactly. Pure observation and experience. They saw the results. The why came much, much later.
When was that? When did they figure out the why?
That was mostly in the 19th century. Scientists finally isolated the key compound from the bark salicin.
Salicin. Okay.
And they figured out that our bodies convert salicin into salicylic acid. That's the actual active ingredient doing the work against pain and inflammation.
So isolating salicin was the breakthrough.
It was huge. From there, chemists learned to make salicylic acid in the lab, first from natural sources, then completely synthetically. That made it much more widely available, a real turning point for medicine.
And that obviously led straight to aspirin.
Pretty much. Synthesizing acetyl salicylic acid aspirin came towards the end of the 19th century. Adding that acetyl group was the genius step to make it gentler on the stomach. And look at it now, a medicine cabinet staple, all starting from observing a tree.
Incredible. And where is that salicylic acid strongest in the willow? You mentioned the bark.
Yes, the highest concentration is in the bark, especially the bark of those young, growing branches and shoots. The leaves have some too, but less, which totally explains why traditional use for medicine or rooting hormone focuses on those young stems.
It all fits together. Now, it sounds like Kesser and Steen, being hands-on types, they didn't just read about this. They set up their own little test, right?
They did. True to form. They designed a simple experiment, took some plant cuttings, treated one group with their homemade willow water.
And the other group.
The other group was the control. Identical cuttings, but no willow water treatment.
Just plain water, presumably, or just planted straight?
Probably just planted straight or maybe dipped in plain water, just to compare apples to apples. The goal was simple, just observe.
See if there was a real visible difference in root development between the two groups.
Exactly that. Seeing is believing, right? A perfect example of Steen's philosophy, learn by doing. See the results yourself.
And they were looking at another angle too, weren't they? Something about plant protection?
Yeah, they were curious about that. Because of the salicylic acid, they wondered if the willow water might also act as a mild plant protector, helping the cuttings defend themselves against fungus or other problems young plants often face.
So not just more roots, but maybe healthier, tougher cuttings overall.
That was the hypothesis. Better rooting and potentially better resilience.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive into the willow for today. It's really been fascinating. We've gone from this ancient pain reliever,
The precursor to aspirin.
all the way to Kesser and Steen, exploring it as a brilliant homemade rooting hormone. It really shows off nature's ingenuity, doesn't it?
It really does. And it loops right back to Oma's wisdom, doesn't it? Those natural solutions are often right there, waiting for us to notice and learn how to use them.
Yeah, so whether you're just curious about where medicines come from or you're keen to give your garden plants a natural boost,
Or just fascinated by the hidden talents in the plants around us.
the willow story is a great example of that potential.
And it perfectly echoes Steen's message, too. Get your hands dirty, learn by doing, experiment safely and curiously.
Absolutely. So maybe the takeaway thought for everyone listening is, next time you're out and about, take a closer look at the plants you usually walk past.
Yeah.
What hidden benefits might they hold? What other natural resources are just waiting to be rediscovered? It could be the start of your own fascinating deep dive. You know those mornings? After breakfast, just scrolling, catching up. Well, Kesser was doing just that, a bit of online digging. And he stumbled across this information from DTU,